زكاتك تدفع عنك البلاء وتحفظ مالك أن أقام.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على الذين اصطفى. أما بعد, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to part 6 of the short series on contemporary laws related to zakat. We continue with our discussion on zakatable assets, and in today's session, we will be looking at the calculation of zakat on debtors. Now, when we talk about debtors, we are talking about anyone who owes us money at any point in time. We can classify debts in different forms and have gone into great detail with regards to zakat on debtors. So we'll try and simplify the types of debts that you have. The first category of debts are trade debts that arise as a result of trading items that are sold. So in your business, if you buy and sell particular products, any products that you sell on credit, the debts related to that would be included in this category. This category also includes any cash that is advanced on loan. So if you give someone a cash loan, or if you give someone a loan of gold or silver. So in all of these cases, if that amount is owed to you, then you have to pay zakat on that debt or the outstanding debt every year. You have to pay zakat on that every year. So for example, if you've lent someone 100 rands, in year one, if they haven't paid you back, you would pay 2.5% of the 100 rands. In year two, you would now pay 2.5% of the 100 rands less the previous year's zakat that was payable, and so on until such time as that debt is paid. Now, you do have the leeway that you can actually physically discharge the zakat when the loan is paid, but you do need to make sure that you pay zakat for all outstanding periods. The second category of debts that you have are non-trade debts. These are debts that arise from the sale of items other than trading items. So if I'm not in the business of selling my vehicle or my cell phone, but somebody buys it from me on credit terms, that vehicle or that cell phone is not part of my trading stock. It's not part of my business, and I've sold it other than through my normal trade. In that instance, zakat is only payable in the year that that debt has been repaid. So we don't have to pay it for the outstanding years. It's only payable in the year of receipt. And then you have other debts, debts that arise from inheritance, the mahar or the dowry, wages, provident fund payments, etc. In that instance, zakat is not payable. So zakat is not payable on those items. It's only payable if you receive the funds and a year passes on that, and it's included in your zakatable assets on your annual zakat date. So these are the three categories of debts and how we have to treat them for zakat purposes. So we spoke about trade receivables. Zakat is payable on them on all periods. If you have doubtful debts, so you have somebody that is unable to pay you the debt, in that instance, you don't need to pay zakat on the doubtful portion of the debt, but you need to be pretty certain that that person is not going to be able to pay you. If subsequently you do recover those bad debts, then you will pay zakat on the bad debts that are recovered, added on to your normal zakatable assets. And if they're still in your possession, you will pay zakat on that. If you have prepaid expenses, so you've paid something in advance, or you've paid something towards a future expense or future purchase, in that instance, that item has now come out of your ownership. You've actually paid it in exchange for something that you're going to be receiving in the future, and you have to make either subsequent payments, or that person is going to have to give you something in exchange in the future. In that instance, you do not have to pay zakat on that. Rather, the amount will now be included in the zakatable assets of the seller. And then we have deposits, and deposits are quite an interesting one, where sometimes you have a deposit that you are putting towards the total cost of an item. Again, similar to prepaid expenses, if you put a deposit on your vehicle and you're going to be paying for it over a period of time, in that instance, that has now come out of your ownership, and that will now be for the purposes of the seller. But then you have a refundable deposit, where a deposit is given and the understanding is it's going to be returned to you, for example, a rental deposit or an electricity deposit, etc. Now, when it comes to this, zakat is payable on the item every year because it is in your ownership, right? However, there is a leeway in that if you cannot withdraw that deposit over a specific period of time, for example, it needs to be there for the duration of your rental contract, or it needs to be there for the duration of your electricity contract, then in that instance, it would be treated like a rahan or a security, and you would have to pay zakat on it every year, but you do have the leeway that you can pay it when you receive the zakat or the deposit back, and you will pay the outstanding zakat one time for all of the years once you receive that particular item. This brings us to the end of zakat on debtors. We discussed the different types and categories of debts. You have trade debts where zakat is payable annually. You have debts that arise from non-trading items, but as a result of sales of certain items. In that instance, zakat is payable once in the year of receipt of that debt. And then you have other debts that arise from non-trading items and non-sale items like your mahar, your inheritance, and those types of things. Their zakat is not payable, except, of course, if the wealth is still in your possession on your particular zakat date. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
لذلك قال الرسول الكريم فلد بالنداء تفز بالمرام.